Hello and welcome yet again to Forgotten Temples with myself, Mr. B. And aren't I just the lucky chappy? Because have a look at this. Isn't this just divine? Look at these beautiful green trees that have been recently planted, because I've been here before, with this magnificent temple that's still enclosed in its original wall. It really is a magnificent sight. And if I tell you that the month is November and you have this piercing blue sky as a backdrop, I think my original sentence of what a lucky chappy I am really amplifies that. But I'm not always that lucky. In the beginning of this video, there was a quick pan shot of some distant mountains. Now, yesterday, I spent an entire day battling, and I do mean battling, the most awful mud, tracks to try and get to temples. And I didn't get anywhere, because some of the fields here are still flooded from the monsoons. And it literally, by the time I got back to my rather budget hotel, it felt that I'd been in the ring for 15 rounds. I mean, I was battered and bruised. It was just absolutely awful. So, believe me, when I tell you to come round the corner and to see this ancient giant just staring down at me, well, I feel truly blessed. So allow me to introduce you. This is Kaprom. Now, the first thing we're going to notice is, of course, we've got this complete wall here, and it's complete all the way down here, and that continues on except for this corner. Now, I have a theory as to this, and I see this often. And what is a possibility is the looters just opened up one corner so they could carry off their illegal bounty, statues and so on. Because statues, big stone statues are jolly heavy. So that's my idea. Now, it could obviously have just easily have been a tree that separated them. But you've got to think, it's a damn sight easier to destroy something than to create it. And if we have a closer look at the wall here, just to, wedge something between these gaps and just lever them off, well, that would be oh so easy, wouldn't it? And then when you go about your nasty work of raping and pillaging, these heritage sites, then, it's just easier for you to steal your ill-gotten gains. Now, there's not an awful lot I can tell you about dear old Kaprom because I couldn't actually find any data on it. Well, none that I could solidly verify. But what we can say is that potentially it was built around the 10th century by King Jayavarman IV, or one of the monarchs around that area, because where we are is not so far that way, a few long miles as the crow flies, there is what was the capital city of Kokare. So this could well have been one of those satellite temples, and it is in magnificent condition. Apart from that break in the wall, it is still hugged, enclosed in its own safe womb of, these laterite blocks. It's so very rare you see this. It's just an absolutely gorgeous place to be. And we have the centerpiece here of this, the central temple. But if I stand aside, look, there's another two buildings down here. This really is a very special place. Now, I did mention in the opening I'd been here before, and it was 2 years ago almost to the day, because it was 2 years ago that I started filming these temples as a way of me breaking away from my horrendous addiction. I was on over a litre of vodka a day, every day. I would drink neat vodka for breakfast without even, getting out of bed. I would, swing my legs over and then start the day by calming my insane brain, that was just screaming out for, the drug, which is alcohol. And the reason I got clear of that addiction was these temples. They've done me the world of good. I no longer smoke nor drink. And I think you see why they've pulled me in, because when you see a doorway like this, isn't it absolutely fantastic? And it's a tiny little doorway, it really is. I'm going to have to bend down to go inside, but it's just sort of beckoning you in. Now the reason it's this small can only be for one reason, which is engineering. There must have been a reason. It's, you know, there's sort of like a double doorway here. There's a brace within, you know, the primary doorway. So that, you know, these are clues, you see. You know, people don't do these things for no reason. It's usually a solid engineering reason. Then what we see inside, you know, is a bit of an altar. So it's still being used today, and that's why it's so well looked after. Look at that, piercing, that beautiful blue sky with its lovely white puffy clouds. You could see why I fell in love. If I'm an addict now, it really is to these temples. I can't live without them. I damaged my foot severely in a fall from a temple. I was out of action for over 3 months, torn ligaments and stuff. And I was in deep fear that, you know, I'd never be able to return to these sites. And I was in, oh, it was horrible not being able to travel and come and see these wondrous things. And look at this. There's not much I can tell you about this, but let's take a moment. Look at that archway there at the top. It's almost gone. It's like a game of Jenga that's got seconds left to play. That seriously needs support. If I come back to this site, which I will, I think in a few years, that's gone, without a doubt. So let's go through this archway, this ancient archway, whilst we can. And I almost guarantee we're the only people to get this on film. Now, let's just have a look out the back, seeing as we're here, because this always interests me. You've got to remember that a temple as mighty as this wasn't built with a jungle around it. Oh, Lord, no. There would have been a village, even a small town. You would have people and children running around, and dogs and cattle and oxen. You know, there'd be a bit of a foundry going, there'd be trade. But now there is silence, and there's no remnants of these people. All the buildings would have been made of wood, and all the people themselves, everything has returned to the earth. It's just dust. There isn't even a lingering memory. So when you look into these jungles, one must take a moment to fire up the imagination and remember what was. And when we think about what was, these ancient doorways, my goodness, they get the older juices of the imagination flowing, because you just wonder what was in here, what was in this room. I mean, come on. I mean, this is one huge wall. I mean, look at this base, this cross stone here. It's actually snapped under the weight. This is how big and mighty this building is. And this is no small stone. This is, you know, a Goliath of a stone. But, you know, you build these things for a reason. We're going to slide down here. But what was in here? What sacred things were kept in here? Well, it could have been, you know, ancient scriptures, or maybe relics, you know, of a time long gone. But where they are now, nobody knows. And as we go back through our ancient doorway, and what I see actually here, can you see that hanging down? Somebody hung some flowers here. Isn't that lovely? That's a very sweet thought. Look at it, you see, as you've come out this doorway, you know, you can see now what the ancients would have seen, this mighty, mighty tower. And it's a very impressive tower, even now. You know, it's directly associated with its brother building behind it. Do you remember? We just have one more though. Again, there's not an awful lot to tell here. We see this enormous debris field, and yet again we see a void. What was once a sacred room, and this doorway that's been blocked with the silt and the mud of time. But remember those dried flowers just there? in this archway? Well, right next to it I've just found these rather lovely red plastic flowers. I actually have a phobia of red plastic flowers. I loathe them, but these ones I like because they're in the right context. Now my guess is they were up there. Why is someone placing flowers in this archway? Well, you never know. You know, one must hazard a guess, I suppose. And maybe it was because it was somewhere where they, you know, two lovers, maybe, hopefully they're still entwined, had their first ever kiss, and maybe it's to come back and remember that moment. So let's hope, you know, nothing bad happened, you know, and this is the memorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our flowers and go through here. Now look at this. Isn't this fantastic? It's very rare you get to see a temple that's so well looked after. So what I'm going to do is I'm calling these the lovers' flowers. You see, one must have a positive imagination, and I'm going to place them right here on this altar because that's the place they should be, I feel. Just adding just a little bit more beauty to what is a truly magnificent sight. Now, if you travel the road that is less trodden, that dusty path, and you come across such wondrous things as this, an altar that is festooned with golden decorations that now also has what I call those lovers' roses. They were just, you know, in the dirt over there, but I think it's here where they belong so they can be appreciated. This truly is a magnificent temple. It's way more intact than so many others. I mean, the wall itself is rather lovely, the way it embraces the entire compound. And to myself, it has a very special significance. As I said, it was 2 years ago, pretty much to the day, that I started this journey. And it was a journey from hell. And please believe me when I'm telling you I'm not over amplifying that. I was utterly destroyed by my addiction. I couldn't leave my house. And even to come to a place like this, to be outside without the support of my drugs, then I had to take Valium. It was horrendous. I was just a shaking, quivering mass of anxiety and of despair. But now, 2 years later, thanks to these temples, I'm free. I have never felt so fulfilled, so free in my entire life. And it's sights such as this that has given me back my very life. And that's why I love doing what I do. But do you know what I also do, which I've only put on camera once before, is when I leave a site, I always kiss the temple. It's my way of saying thank you. Thank you for absolutely everything. Now then, I very much hope you've enjoyed this 10-minute adventure. And if you could help me build up this library of oh so forgotten and sometimes abandoned temples, then I would be truly grateful. I travel tens of thousands of kilometers annually to build this library, and your assistance would be deeply appreciated. And how you do that's very simple. It's www.patreon.com/temples. Simple as that. So, this is it. It's been Mr. B, hoping you've enjoyed yourselves. And as always, I'm going to wish you absolutely nothing but the very best. You be sure to take good care now.